Hey guys, welcome to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So today we are back with a Corki updated complete guide. But of course, before we jump into it, as usual, don't forget to check out his skills, leveling order, tips and tricks, as well as some combos in the basic guide that I will leave up in the cards above for your easy reference. But with that said, now let's take a look at his build. So pretty much nothing has changed about Corki, and it hasn't changed for many patches now. And what I mean by that is, basically, Corki always goes for Gluttonous Greaves, rushes Gluttonous Greaves first for lane, where you get 35 AD and 7% Omnivamp. Then you always go into the Mana Moon, which is going to give you, of course, number 1 mana, which you run out of very easily. Then you're, of course, going to get Ability Haste and AD, but of course, most importantly, when you evolve it to Mirror Mana, it is going to increase the damage of your spells as well as your auto attacks, both of which you use a lot of for your damage. And then, of course, you go for Triforce next, which gives you the battery of good stats, as well as, of course, now giving you the Spellblade passive as well, which with Corki, of course, with 6 charges of your ulti, you can basically proc this non-stop, only limited by the 1.5-second cooldown of the item itself, gives you the movement speed as well. And then third item, you're going to go for Riftmaker, again, another bunch of good stats, Omnivamp, and, of course, true damage when you stack it up after 3 stacks. So pretty much this is the standard Corki build, and this hasn't changed, I think, in ever since Riftmaker came out, basically, right? So this has always been the same, and the last 2 items is where there's always variation between patches. And honestly, at this point, I really don't think there's any best last 2 items. And let's take a look at what the top 3 players are building. So you see one guy is building Eclipse and Terminus, which I think is pretty strange. Then of course we have Mole Reminder and GA, no surprise there. And then we even have one that doesn't even build Riftmaker, which I think is really strange, but instead goes for double crit item into GA. So yeah, as you guys can see there, even the top 3 players don't agree on what to build, as your last 2 items. I mean, one guy even doesn't even build Riftmaker, but basically your last 2 items is completely variable. So I'm just gonna list out all your options here. So you can go for like a attack speed crit item if you want to. So here you have Charge Blade, which you can proc very easily because of how much you spam your abilities. You can proc Charge Blade really easily. You can go for, of course, the extra range with the Magnetic Blaster. You can go for defensive options such as, of course, your Maw Mordius for magic resist. And go for utility options such as going for Oceanus Trident for the anti-shield, or Kempang Chainsword as the anti-heal. Of course, do not go for Mole Reminder because you do not do much physical damage. You only do 20% physical damage and 80% AP damage, so don't go for Mole Reminder. It is just a complete waste. And of course, you have Crown for the safety. Of course, you even have GA as well. I personally don't like building GA, so I don't even have it in my build here. But I guess I could swap out Mole Reminder for GA. So you even have an option that is such as GA. So you have so many options for your last 2 items. It's kind of match dependent what you want to go for. And for the runes, you want to go for Conqueror because you stack this up pretty easily in long fights. Then you will have Brutal because you auto attack a decent amount. And then you, of course, have Giant Slayer to counter the tanks. Of course, you can also go for Coup de Grace for against squishies. And here I like to take Alacrity for the extra attack speed to attack a little bit more. And Bone Plating for the safety. And finally, we have Flash and Exhaust as our summoner spells. So with all that said, now let's move on to talking about our gameplay. Okay, so let's take a look at our Corki gameplay. But before we get into it, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Any questions, queries, or remarks, feel free to leave them in the comments below. I will, of course, be sure to address them.
Minions have spawned.
So I think it goes without saying at this point that Corki you only really want to pick in the bot lane if you're lacking AP. So in this game, we have absolutely no AP unless you count Nami, who doesn't really deal very much damage since she is a support. But on my top side, we have 3 AD champions, so we kind of need a little bit of AP. And of course, you do have a ton of AP options in the bot lane. You of course have AP Kai'Sa, AP Varus, probably the 2 best AP options. And then of course you have Corki as well. Now I personally think that going for AP Kai'Sa or AP Varus is probably better than going for Corki, which is obviously why Kai'Sa and Varus are the top 2 on my tier list, as you guys have seen. Check that one out if you have not. But I think Corki still has a very decent spot in terms of just being a strong carry himself. The main strength and weakness of Corki is basically the same thing, which is that he has to get very up close to do damage. So when he is able to get close, his E shreds the armor and magic resist of enemy champion, and this allows him to really do a lot of damage and allows his team to do a lot of damage to them as well. Because don't forget, you're actually removing armor and magic resist from them. You're not actually increasing your own damage. You're increasing everybody's damage onto them. So, however, this of course requires you to play kind of not very safe, because you have to get in very close, like this here. So you are walking very close here. We're trading with the MF as well as the Zyra. Now, a lot of times you have to commit with your Valkyrie, your dash, to get very close to them, to really blast them in the face with your E. And this of course opens you up to, if you can't stat check them, then they're probably going to stat check you and you're probably going to die. And of course you have used your mobility to engage, so they can easily outplay you with their mobility, things like that. But he does do a really good amount of damage. So here, against an MF and a Zyra, Darius hooks in the hooks in the Zyra and gets the first blood on her. Nice job by the Darius there. And that, of course, gives us a huge advantage in the lane. Now, the issue is, as you guys can see here, we're running out of mana. So what we really want to do is we want to just shove in this wave, and then we want to reset and get mana. Now, this kind of mana problem doesn't really resolve the entire game. Even when you get mana mean, you still have instances where you run out of mana, which is never really a good thing. But yeah, Corki is just one of those champions that uses a ton of mana, so we are gonna have to go back, and we're gonna have to, you know, restore our mana in the base, and we also pick up the mana crystal to begin stacking that one. Now, something I didn't actually mention in the beginning portion on the build is that there is another Corki build that is pretty much phased out of the meta at this point, which is the full crit Corki, where you basically go for Essence Reaver first item, and you know, normally you go like Essence Reaver into Charge Blade into IE, you know, like just going for, of course, just crit items, things like that. So here, MF, you can see basically she gets stat checked by me, right? And then Zyra now gets CC'd by Nami, gets hit by Glacial, gets slowed down, and then gets bubbled as well. And yeah, basically they overextended and just got run down by me. So this is kind of one of those situations where Corki shines at, because if you're able to get a prolonged period where you're able to land your Gatling gun onto an enemy, they're going to be so squishy that basically you can outstat check them, because they're not going to have enough defensive capabilities to withstand your damage, and you will pretty much always win against them. So prime time is of course when the enemy team overextends. You can just basically run them down with your Gatling gun, and you normally should be able to win against a majority of enemies. Of course, against some champs like Callista or Draven, it's going to be harder, but aside from like those two, pretty much majority of ADCs you can just run down you know, with your Gatling gun, so long as they, like, you know, give you a long runway to do that, which in this case they did, because they overextended by a mile. So yeah, but of course you don't always get these opportunities, so don't worry. Even if you don't, Corki does scale pretty well into the late game, so you always do have opportunities to carry later on in the game. Even if you kind of lane 0, 0, and 0, it's absolutely fine. Corki, of course, is also a really good pick in the mid lane, also an A+ tier pick in the mid lane, in my opinion. So he is basically like my mid laner of choice if I get auto-filled to mid lane and I need magic damage. So yeah. Now here I'm back to a pretty tame laning phase, because honestly MF and Zyra just want to poke. They get caught again. MF gets chain CC'd by Nami and we're able to get the kill. Zyra is able to hit the knockup onto me, and obviously she's under tower, so at this point I can't really damage her. Her plant is doing a decent chunk of damage on my backside, and we're gonna have to walk away and get away from that plant. And now, with the dragon coming up, we want to reset and pick up the package. So ideally with Corki, you kind of want your team to go for the objective near you, which normally is dragon, and generally Herald is better for snowballing. But with Corki, since you have package, you really want your team to fight with you, and if they fight at Herald, you're gonna have to ditch. Either you have to ditch your lane to go Herald with your package, or you know, you have to kind of waste your package or don't pick up the package to begin with. So here you can see I'm trying to ping the Darius to do dragon. He finally actually does it, but the issue is that I now need to push out my wave so that I can, you know, rotate the dragon, which I do. And now we are doing the dragon all together. Mbessa has taken the Herald and is making a play on top lane. Here Zyra gets caught. I put down the red carpet, and yeah, Zyra attempts to walk past it, but instantly gets melted by the package damage and eventually does go down. So MF of course has the double mimics you know, in hand, and we're just going to of course continue to blast her. Zyra is not around, so she has to pop her ulti to clear the wave, which I think is a pretty okay move, because if she doesn't do that, she does risk getting dove by us. If she gets chain CC, you know, she could be in trouble. And speaking of trouble, Darius is going in on her. I'm trying to dash and follow up. However, I end up getting rooted under the tower instead. So it gets a little bit iffy, but we are eventually able to finish the kill. And now Mbessa is on the way in. And here I exhaust her, which does cut her damage by a lot. Thankfully, Darius doesn't die, because if Darius died there, Mbessa would have gone to reset, and that probably means me and Nami die as well. So, like, sometimes the difference between an Mbessa play is either you die and look like a fool, or that could have been a triple kill, right? If Darius played that badly, just by a little bit, Mbessa kills him, and because Mbessa resets, she kills me and she kills Nami as well. So, yeah, the margins are very, very slim. But the Mbessa is not doing very well. She's 1-3-2 at the moment, unfortunately. So unfortunately, she hasn't really been getting those fights and those resets that she's after, which is, of course, tad unfortunate for her. So as I said in my trailers, I do think Mbessa is a pretty fair champion. After playing with and against her for many matches, I do think that you know, yeah, you know, she is good if you're good at her, but she's not good if you're not good at her. And here, Nami is catching out MF again. I'm dashing forward to follow up, and at this point you can see the insane damage that I do. I can just run down the MF, and MF is 0 and 5 at this point. She's not even worth that much gold. So there's gonna come a point soon that I think going for the MF is not gonna be worth the risk or the effort anymore, because she's now barely more gold than like a minion. Like a minion wave is worth way more gold than her at this point, which is honestly just sad. Zyra is more valuable than her because she is 0 and 3 instead of 0 and 5, so Zyra's going to be worth a little bit more gold than MF. Zyra does have the Rhylice, which is pretty annoying because it's not allowing us to walk away, so she's dealing a decent chunk of damage to us at the moment. All the rest of the enemy team is on top side, and MF is actually mid, so we know this tower is unattended to, except by possibly Zyra if she's actually here. Turns out she is not, so actually we're just going to take the tower, being sure to proc Spellblade to get the tower more easily. And now we're going to back. Darius actually picks up a triple kill on the entire enemy top side, which is pretty insane. And here I am just stacking up my mana mune just by casting spells as I'm walking out of the base. I'm headed to the mid lane where it looks like a fight is occurring. Yasuo ults the MF under tower and does get the kill on her. Surprisingly, he doesn't really even take that much damage despite the fact he was under tower. And now we're gonna get the tower, destroy this tower, and we move our lead to mid lane as well. Now our bot lane is completely pushed in, and it's really difficult to get anything actually done there because we don't want to overextend to, you know, farm minions or whatnot. So instead, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna use downtime to farm the jungle. We're just gonna take the Skull Crab. And here at this point, we can see Zyra and Ori in the mid lane. Zyra is actually looks like he's making her way here, so I am a little bit cautious. I don't want to overextend because I don't know where MF is. I don't know where Mbessa is, and probably at this point, despite the fact that she's 2 and 4, Mbessa is probably like the biggest threat to me because, like, the Ori, the MF, and the Zyra can't really get onto the backline very easily, and they're not, you know, really doing very well, so they can't really burst me down. Like, Ori's doing fine, but she has gone for a scaling build where she has Seraphs as her first item, so she's not gonna easily be able to burst me down, at least not at the current moment. So Mbessa is surprisingly my main threat, despite her basically kind of not doing so well in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, so the next dragon is coming up in 20 seconds, so this is probably high time to reset and pick up the package, which is exactly what I am doing here. I'm pinging that I'm going to the dragon, and I kind of need my team to go there with me. My team is actually there, but the issue is that they're in the enemy jungle, looking to pick a fight, which I don't really think is very ideal at the moment. Sion is ulting to top lane to stop the Ornn from doing any kind of effective split push, and the rest of us are just gonna go ahead and take this dragon. The enemy team doesn't look very interested in contesting, you know, which is the correct move here because honestly, our team is probably gonna, you know, wipe them in the fight. Now, now this leaves me with the package in my hand and no one to actually use it on. So we're kind of looking for opportunity. I don't want to package in Orianna here because we don't know who's behind her, right? It turns out Ornn and MF were behind her. So if I packaged in there, I'd probably just end up inting my life away, which is obviously not what we're after. We're trying to look for kills, not for an int. And here we can see Mbessa and Zyra are in the top lane. So here I'm looking, I see MF walking down. I know that only Orianna at most could be behind her, but she does end up tagging me with her Make It Raid, and my package does run out. So instead, I end up going to the top lane using the Hex Gate to join the fight. Ornn is going in with the ulti, hits a 4-man ulti into a 4-man Orianna ulti. However, they're not able to finish any of the kills, and Darius ends up picking up a triple. Is that a quadra? I think no. Sion does get the kill instead. But that was completely worth it. Only MF is left alive, and we're here easily to take down their tier 2 tower, and now we're even going on to the inhib. Mbessa is going to be spawning pretty soon, but honestly she can't stop us by herself, and Zyra is here as well, but yeah, they're not going to have an easy time stopping us. Unfortunately, Yasuo decides not to back off and decides to continue to go in. I'm not quite sure why, but Mbessa and Zyra are now just whacking the Yasuo into next week, and Yasuo ends up dying, which is a pretty needless death, because why would you stick around when you can just walk away? So we do get the inhib on the Baron side, which of course is not very useful for Baron, but it is really useful for when we go for, like, you know, third dragon, like, which will be Dragon Soul for us, or Elder Dragon later on. Now here I believe I can complete my Riftmaker, which is why I'm backing, and that's exactly what happens. I complete the Riftmaker, putting myself at 3 completed items at this point. Red buff share is up, so I'm just going to go ahead and grab that. On my team, I'm still doing the best, followed by Darius, but you can see Mbessa's goal is really comparable to us, so she's kind of not too far behind. So here I'm trying to see if I can help out Sion, who is in a duel with Mbessa at the moment. Orianna now comes to, Ornn is coming in. I'm like, nah. You know, I'm not going over there. I'm trying to help from a distance, but unfortunately I get ulted by the Mbessa, so again, that's my fault that I got ulted. So, and then I get chain CC with the Orianna ulti and then the Ornn ulti, which then causes me to die eventually. So, unfortunately, I got a little bit too close and I got ulted by the Mbessa, and yeah, you know when you get ulted by the Mbessa, you're just gonna get run down by her, which is kind of not exactly what happened, but what actually happened is it was a ball transportation system for the Orianna, who was then able to get out on me, and then Ornn chain CC, and I basically just could not move. But thankfully we do still get the kill onto the Mbessa, but we do have to give over our shutdown, which is of course not the greatest. And Orianna now is really fed as well off of that shutdown. So now we've respawned, you know, we just want to look for farm, which in this case is going to come in the form of our jungle, because the waves have all pretty much been pushed out and we can't really farm any wave very effectively. Yasuo's in mid, and Sion is in bot, and this top lane wave is not really here yet, so instead I'm gonna just farm the jungle, pick up the blue buff share, and then join back up with my team to see if you know, anything is gonna happen, any plays are gonna be made. Speaking of which, Darius is inside the enemy jungle, 1v2ing Mbessa as well as the MF. Here I'm trying to focus the Mbessa. I full stack my Conqueror, I believe, but I'm not really able to kill her. She's pretty tanky. We need the help of Yasuo and Nami, and we finally are able to blast her down, and she goes down. Orianna is now on the run. Yasuo catches up to her. She does proc the phasers, and she actually stopped there for a second to cast her ulti. If she didn't do that, I think she probably gets out. But she ulted thin air, so that was not really good from the Orianna. Now my Sion is getting run down. However, at this point my whole team can rotate to help him. I'm not sure why they backed in that bush when they know that we're coming. I mean, of course they don't know that it's warded, but even if they don't know whether there's a ward in it or not, even if there isn't a ward, there's nowhere else they could be recalling, right? Because like, we don't see them under tower, and Sion doesn't see them, so it means they have to be in that bush, and you're able to just burst both of them down, and or not both of them, but we are able to burst down the Zyra and pick up a free kill. Now here, huge whiff on the ult by the Mbessa, and now she's in way too deep, and she gets hit by my Gatling gun for a long duration, so we burst her down, we pick up a double. Orianna ults herself, probably a misplay there, and we get the other side lane inhib. So Darius is soloing the Dragon Soul while we're doing all of this, and obviously the enemy team cannot contest whatsoever. They're busy getting their base torn apart, and they definitely can't contest the Dragon Soul, giving us the Ocean Dragon Soul, which is going to be, you know, I guess somewhat useful, because it does give you the extra healing. We're not able to take down the mid lane inhibitor, unfortunately, but you know, we're ahead enough at this point that shouldn't be too important. So in this game, I decided to go for a Sterix Gauge as my fourth item, because the enemy team had pretty mixed damage in terms of we have Ori and Zyra both having magic damage, and then the rest of the enemy team with physical damage. So I didn't really want to go for Maw in particular. I thought going for Sterix would be generally better as a defensive option, since, you know, they have both forms of damage. So here the blue buff share is up. I'm going to quickly grab that one. And now we have the package. We're gonna join our team. This is like gonna be the game like ending fight. I don't know how Orianna saw me there to ult me. I mean, I guess the ball does give vision, but that was a pretty good Orianna ulti. Orianna is getting cooked by the red carpet and eventually does go down. And at this point, only Mbessa is left alive, and nothing she can do to stop it. She does go try to go in and try to get something done, but she is mobile enough to get back to a fountain. I just farm a little bit more damage onto her, and that brings us to the end of the game. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the guide. Of course, see you guys in the next one. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and goodbye.